Want to know three strategies to make your brain more productive? Well, if not, you can turn this off now. If so, then you may want to listen for just a couple of minutes. This is Janice Russell with Janice Russell Coaching and Consulting. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I really just feel like my brain is going to explode. My life, your life probably too, jam-packed these days. And this is whether we're talking about our professional life or our personal life. And then the speed at which we receive new information is just craziness. And so it is no wonder that our brains are maxed out. And the issue is that we need our brains to be more productive regardless of what kinds of tasks we're looking at. So I want to cover really quickly three strategies that we can use to help keep our brain in top form, which helps us to then maximize our productivity. So the first strategy is to declutter your mind. So in this particular case, I want to take some of the information out and put it elsewhere. Don't want to remove it completely. Because if we have external ways of capturing information, then it means that information is not cluttering up in our brain. And I know that there are some people who think they can keep all of their tasks and all of their calendar items in their brain, and that may work for a while, but eventually that will not work anymore, either because your brain is going to explode, or because maybe you're getting a little bit older and the memory is not quite what it used to be. I know I now have to write down more things than I used to, because there are things that my brain just doesn't retain these days. So within this particular strategy of decluttering your brain, one recommendation, of course, is to use a calendar, and it does not matter whether it is paper or electronic. But as long as you use your preferred format, so that can be day at a glance, week at a glance, month at a glance, whether or not you use color coding, whether or not your days or weeks are in vertical or horizontal format, what's most important is to find a way that works for you. And as part of this, I really urge people to put in some of the extras in the calendar. So for example, not just the time of an appointment, but make sure to block out the driving time to and from, because that does indeed impact the whole rest of our schedule. The other thing that I really urge people to do is to put in time for tasks. Because I don't know about you, but those tasks that we don't put a time in for, we think of them as, oh, we'll get to that someday. And we have to remember that someday is not a day of the week. So highly recommend it. I know that I do better when I do that, and there are things that fall through the cracks when I don't do that. Another piece of decluttering your brain is utilizing a task list. Now, the first part of this, again, whether we're talking about electronic or paper, is to differentiate between projects and tasks. So, projects entail multiple steps, often take more than a day. Tasks can be completed in one step and require a limited amount of time. So something to keep in mind, because usually if we mix those onto one list, that's when the list starts feeling really overwhelming. And so you can just determine whether you want to have a task list and then bring anything over, sorry, a project list, and then bring individual tasks from those projects onto a task list itself. You can decide whether you want to divide the personal from the professional. It doesn't really matter. It's a matter of what format works for you, and you do want to make sure to have a way to indicate priority, as well as where you're going to have the other information, any other information that you might need to complete that potential task. All right, so declutter your mind. Number two, we want to nurture your brain. Now, I get it's enclosed in bone, I understand, but it still needs attention. I'm sure you're already aware of one big way, and that is that it's important to protect the brain. So whether you're biking, skateboarding, roller skating, or playing a contact sport, wearing a helmet is an easy way to protect your brain. Another thing is to nourish your brain. Now, one of the big ways to do this is to drink adequate amounts of water, which can be hard, but I know I personally have really benefited from a free app that helps me monitor how much water I'm drinking each day. Another way to nurture your brain is to get plenty of oxygen. Now, I get it. You know how to breathe. I understand. However, oftentimes we fail to take the deeper breaths that use the diaphragm, and that can really help nurture our brains. It can also just help us to relax a minute. So I do really highly recommend that as a way to nurture your brain. And then third is to make sure that you get sufficient sleep. And I know people who tell me that, yeah, they only need 5, maybe 6 hours of sleep a night. Science has actually proven that even as adults, we need 7 to 8 hours a night minimum. So yes, we can survive on less. I know that I have. However, over time, you will be more productive if you get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. So, number one, declutter your mind. Number two, nurture your brain. And number three, identify any brain-based conditions. So, in this case, I'm talking about things like ADHD, traumatic brain injury, clinical depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, dementia. Those are just a few of the conditions that can affect the brain. And the thing is that if we identify, if we have one, if you don't have one, no problem at all. That's great for you, but many people do. I know for me, I have clinical depression. And so when you identify the existence of a brain-based condition, then that helps you to identify appropriate supports, whether those be therapeutic, medicinal, behavioral, some kind of combination thereof. So just a couple of really small examples here in terms of what brain-based condition can affect what, or which, what. You can figure that one out. All right, so ADHD impacts a person's executive functions, and those are crucial to helping us manage the complexity of life. A traumatic brain injury or TBI, it can be mild, it can be severe, it can cause difficulties such as memory problems and attention deficits, among many other challenges. People with clinical depression often have trouble concentrating and remembering details, again, among other symptoms that they can have. Obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD can really impact someone's ability to complete tasks because they get interrupted by those obsessions and or compulsions. And obviously dementia, as well as any other memory-based diseases, affect anything that involves the memory. And so, no more needs to be said about that. But that's just a cursory, so cursory overview of a couple of different brain-based conditions. However, if you declutter your mind, nurture your brain, and identify brain-based conditions, you will find that if you get support that you need, take some of these steps along the way, that you will become more productive. Now, selfishly, I will say that one strategy for making your brain more productive can be working with a coach, such as myself, who can help you learn how to successfully cross off to-dos, manage paperwork, and optimize time. If you think that this is something that would be helpful for you, I do offer a 30-minute free, no obligation exploratory call. And the way that you can book this call with me is to type in call.janicerussell.com. Again, call.janicerussell.com to book a 30-minute, no obligation, free exploratory call to see if working together might be something that supports you. Thanks so much for your attention and tune back in for other videos.